Good morning, you bad, beautiful bitches, you. This episode here almost needs a little bit of a buildup of climatic music, okay? He's brought you the BK Lounge.
Yep.
He's brought you Employee of the Month.
Yep.
He's brought you, what's that one where you have sex with all the women?
Good luck, Chuck.
He's brought you Good Luck, Chuck. He's toured the country, he's sold out almost every stadium known to man. Ladies and gentlemen, Dane Cook.
Dane.
I'm going to reverse date myself here. Colin and I are 28. Okay. So let me paint a quick picture for you. I'm in a very suburban neighborhood cul-de-sac riding a Razor scooter, CD player in pocket, big headphones, almost like these.
Yep.
On the ones and twos. And what am I listening to? A CD of a man talking about the BK Lounge. Okay? Hello.
Wow.
That is when you first hit my radar, which must have been what year did that special come out? What was that?
Well, let me think. If that's the first two CDs, let's see. I don't remember if that was from Retaliation or if it was from Harmful of Swallow, but those were my two first, everybody had that in their Discman.
Yeah.
And I have
the Walkman.
I have an older sister, and I stole the CD from her.
Yeah.
She had Friends CDs and Dane Cook CDs. And I was like, who is this Dane Cook guy?
It was like pre-MP3, well, that was starting to usher in that era, but that was really, honestly, when you were still selling shit out of your trunk. And that's how, before I got any record deal, I was selling that shit out of my trunk on the road for about a year and a half before I got a record deal.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
I've always wondered, I almost feel like we are cheating so we obviously grew up with the social media era, So we've been to advertise, it's fairly simple, very straightforward. You post a shit ton on TikTok, YouTube, Reels, the whole thing.
Yep.
Was the game back in the day like I've heard your story and heard the come up, but I'm always so fascinated by the hustle going on in here. Were you just going door knocking to the Laugh Factories of the world and the Funny Bones and how were you getting in front of the right crowd to?
I really didn't know what I was doing.
Really? Yeah.
I was we were all winging it back in Boston, man. It was really more a situation where, everybody's doing local gigs. When I say everybody, the graduating class I came up with, Patrice O'Neill, Bill Burr, Bobby Kelly, Gary Gulman. There was a lot of cronies. Everybody was fucking just banging around, doing gigs, taking each other on the road in the sense of hey, I've got a gig that I'm doing for nothing. Do you want to come open for nothing with me?
You're yes, absolutely. Thought about it.
It was from there, what you learned or what we were fortunate enough to learn. What I was happy to learn was if you do your job well as a comic, somebody leaves that room who runs another room somewhere or a restaurant with an open mic,
right?
Or even people started seeing me hey, I book college entertainment or I book a small theater, and it good work opens up the doors. That's really it. So
right.
I was just for that first 10 years, the 90s they were tough. They were really brutal.
Yeah.
Just doing whatever you can to get to the next gig, and you didn't really know what your career was more than maybe 2 months ahead for a good decade.
Right. Because when was the big, you were 28, if I'm following the timeline correctly, when you were when you were in leather jackets and I don't want to, listen, Dan, I almost
heavy leather.
Heavy leather. This is
the whole cow.
Yeah. Yeah. Bad day to be a farm animal. Right. With Dane out there. This is unbelievable. I almost want to say my fashion sense sprinkled a little bit of Dane Cook in there. He was he had the tighter jeans, the more acidy wash jeans and a leather jacket.
A little distressed. Everything was a little distressed. Even if I bought a crisp new shirt, I took some rocks and I'd take gravel and I'd make everything look like a vintage 70s shirt. So everything had to be a little distressed.
Right.
I've had this went through wars.
Right.
This shirt. Jesus. This is, and
well, you know what it was? Because if you look at that era of end of 90s into 2000, if you look at a lot of comics, there was a lot of bowling shirts, There was a lot of like that long mid. There was the Chuckies. Everybody had like a fucking like. If you weren't a yuppie, you were like, oh, I'm the rebellious yuppie. So mine's a little longer and beach bum. So I went the other way, and I was like, fuck that. You know what? I'm not going to wear a bowling shirt. I'm going to try to throw back to more like I came up loving like, you know, Led Zeppelin fucking t-shirts and you know, old Elvis fucking collectibles. So my take was I don't want to blend in because with comedy, the more you blend in, like the less funny.
I feel like, as a hilarious note too, is I'm literally wearing basically a bowling shirt and Colin has a 3/4 sleeve shirt on. Hilarious.
It's a baseball shirt.
Yeah, Dane, totally ridiculous. I can't believe that's
two hacks.
An option. That is so dumb. God.
I know. I couldn't help it. It was all I had on me.
Go change. This is getting out of hand. I feel like in the comedic space, you were like the first person, at least that I saw, that was like theatrical for us, for the now for the 95 babies over here.
Yeah.
Like now there's so many on stage that are flying around and using their whole body to contort the joke. But you were like almost a founding father of that, it seemed like, on stage.
It was an era in the 90s where every comic in New York anyway was like, it was not cool to be a showman. You know, everybody was busting your balls. If you even quote tried to be funny, you were murdered.
Really?
You were murdered. Oh, the comics table would fucking eviscerate anybody who came in with a real bit prepared. And so it was the era of if you're not laughing, it's almost better because I'm a comics comic, and I didn't want to be a comics comic.
Okay,
I wanted to be a comic that could. I actually wanted to kind of try to figure out what I was trying to figure out is how can I be mainstream but still not give a fuck about cohabitating with the mainstream I saw out there now that was kind of aging out a little bit.
Right.
And there was what I knew was on the college tour for about 8 years, every night as I was doing meet and greets, college kids were saying, this is my first comedy show. So I was like, oh, fuck, I'm at the front of a new generation because I'm the first thing they're seeing. If I leave them with something that's unprecedented, maybe, then they're going to be like, oh, we've seen a few and we want to go back and see Dane again. That was a show.
Something that really fascinates me about you, which I thought I was doing as like this like rarity. So 2 years ago, I downloaded TikTok as like a total joke, start posting away. But then every comment and every DM, I would respond back and physically outreach to people. And I'm like, look at me. Yeah. I am just really hacking this thing. And then to come to find out, this is like old news. Dane's been doing this since it was Facebook or MySpace was your
gotta be MySpace,
where you were really hacking away. Because you were like one-on-one reaching out to now every one of your fans, right? To sell.
For about 4 years, all I did all day, every day, because you got to remember, I'm a comedian. I work at night. I have no life during the day.
Yeah,
I used to on Wednesdays in LA for about 5 years. I would play. Ready? We would play. We all had rollerblades, and I would rollerblade hockey on an abandoned parking structure with Bill Burr.
Oh wow!
Pete Cummins, like 10 fucking Boston cronies. On a Wednesday afternoon, we would go down to Santa Monica Boulevard. There was an empty parking structure with a really smooth top floor.
Yep.
And I remember on many occasions stopping during the day. You know, we'd be playing. I turned to, again, like Bird and I had come up together. I just try to go, it's Wednesday afternoon and we're playing fucking roller hockey on a roof. You're a dental assistant and I fucking rent movies.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
So it was really like, okay, even though that was fun, if I spend the whole day replying to everybody and sending people links or sending people tour info or even make my own little makeshift fucking tour schedule, what I found really quickly, guys, was it was like, oh, I'm not really reinventing anything. All I'm really doing is the modern version of putting flyers on a fucking telephone pole to say, hey, I'm in town. So I leaned into it. It was a lot of work for about 4 straight years, but it paid off because I built a nice little legion of fans.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's so. When did you know? Like as a young kid, did you know? Ooh, like I'm cracking jokes here. Like Colin and I are what I would call like situational funny. Like if we were out having drinks, but if you were like to put a mic and like get on stage and like
freeze.
Yeah.
Freeze.
How did you know, or when did you bridge the gap being like, I crush it at a booth in a cafe, but I could go out and sell out, Madison Square Garden. Like, did you know early on as a kid?
It's not like I knew, but I did kind of like make a proclamation. My sister Kelly had seen Steve Martin at an arena. And when she came back, I knew at 15, I wanted to be a comedian. I didn't really know how, but I was like, I want to be a comedian. I was watching comedy. I was watching, HBO or whatever and listening to comedy albums. And Kelly came back, and when she was like explaining what Steve Martin did in front of all those people with his antics, she was like, he had all these antics. And I was like, well, I know antics. I'm a fucking cut up. But I kind of remember on that conversation, I did say to her that conversation at 15, I said, you're going to come see your brother play an arena show someday. You're going to see me play Boston Garden. She said, I am? And I was like, yeah. And so did I kind of dream up this idea that if antics can get you that far and he's putting an arrow through his head and he's doing music and it's like, I'm going, maybe I can think that big. And I was naive enough to know that, not know it was a fucking business.
Yep.
But hey man, like a lot of years, behind the scenes, a lot of years just doing the gigs. You realize something that a lot of comics that you probably love today or have encountered, which is if you're good at what you do and enough people think you're genuine at doing it, then you can do big business.
Right. I owe you a thank you out of the gate here because you said something. I believe it was Madison Square Garden, which was called the Circle of Ring of. What was the Circle of what was the name of that one? Why am I blanking on that?
Vicious Circle.
Vicious Circle. I am a young little lad, mushroom cut, head to toe in denim, early 2000s child. And Dane ends a joke, crushes it, whole crowd's laughing, and he like does the classic lean over and he's like, this is what I think about while you guys are at work all day. And it dawned on, because I do social media full time. Like all I do is TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and have like in the agent space, and I've learned that whole game. But that like tipped the sphere enough for me, because we were talking about it before you jumped in. My dad's famous quote was, "We are Irish class working folk. Like you're gonna work every day."
Right.
We grew up very middle class. My mom was an English teacher. Like you're gonna work until you're 65. They just retired recently at 65 and 66. But Dane like put the little sparkle in my mind at an early age, being like, he thinks about jokes while people are back to like you playing roller hockey and being like, you're a dental assistant and I'm out here playing hockey. Like it's those little moments where I was like, oh shit, there's another path here.
Right. You could do it.
Yeah. So I owe you a massive thank you for that, because that really.
Oh, dude. Hey man, it's interesting because, I'm Irish Catholic as well. My dad came up working lumber.
Yep.
He installed fucking, whatever, like, those windows you put in for the winter, whatever those are called. Like he was, my dad was, jack of all trades kind of guy. And so even though he kind of was saying the same thing to me, he was also an athlete, and he was a bit of a showman because he loved boxing and playing baseball and basketball.
Right.
He went to BC.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah.
There was that little part of my dad that, thank God, man, he'd be like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to do this stand-up thing. And once he came down and saw that there were other guys on the show, he was like, be funnier than them. He's like, fuck these guys. They stink. Some of them are not even. And so his competitiveness bled into, if you're going to do this, don't go for mediocre laughs. Like at least try to do something that is for you in the never been done before business. So it's kind of cool because I had his support on that, even though, dude, I'm not even kidding you. This is crazy. I had done my first late night television show, The Late Show with David Letterman, when he was still hosting. And I literally remember the next day, my dad coming. Now, keep in mind, I do the show. It's not like it's a life-changing late night show, but it does change my business because now I'm going to get booked. I'm going to get colleges. Right. My dad calls me the next day. At that time, he was also working at Winchester Country Club. And he goes, hey, I saw the show last night. You did great. Look good. I'm like, thanks, Pop. And he goes, so listen, if you want to pick up any hours, head caddy over here and help me with the boys. and I literally go, hey, Dad, like, I thank you, but like, I'm thinking of this as like a career thing. And so even he was looking at it like, give it a shot, but you know, you might have to get back to work.
Yeah.
Right.
That is, when did he finally realize it? When did he realize like, oh shit, was it up until Madison Square Garden?
No. You know when it was? He didn't really give a fuck about any of the high watermark moments, but one thing blew him away. When I introduced him to Cam Neely at the comics.
That'll do it. For a dad around here, that'll do it.
Yeah.
When my dad met Cam and Cam threw a hug on me and was like, you know, because Cam and I are friends and he's a fan. And the ride home I rented a limo for my dad that night too, because like, I wanted to like, give him the whole fucking treatment. Like even like a cheesy, like high school fucking graduation, like a limo.
Yeah.
And in the car driving home, he probably said, wow, like 30, like, wow, Cam, he really respects you. Cam, like, wow.
Smoking.
That was it, man. After that, I got him on the field when I threw out the first pitch at Fenway. You know, he gets to be there when I headline Boston Garden. Like, my dad loved it because it was close to athleticism.
Yeah. I freaking love. You're Amesbury guy originally, right? Where's hometown?
No, well, born in Cambridge, but then went right over and grew up in Arlington.
Okay, gotcha. There we go. Local guy that was Cambridge. Selling out the Garden like that. I gotta assume Madison Square Garden, obviously top tier. The movies, which we'll dive into, probably. I'm curious where that sits in your career path, but I gotta assume TD Garden as a local Bostonian must have been like
shitting your pants.
Close you get to like Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl for us, you know?
Wow. I mean, it's a lot, man. When you bring this up, there's a million stories, and I got to narrow it down to like one or two for you guys. But so, first and foremost, it was like, I was playing the attic of the Kowloon for fucking years. You know, I was playing laundry mats and all the dives. You know?
Nothing like Route 1, am I right?
Right. Unbelievable traffic.
You know, I was doing a gig next to fucking Fun and Games in Framingham, so to make it to the Garden in a lot of ways, well, I'll tell you this. I just went back. We're shooting a documentary, and I went back 2 weeks ago and we rebuilt the stage, and I do one of my one-on-one interviews at the Garden. So we're sitting in the Garden, and I'm fucking sitting, and I'm looking at, the seats, and I'm telling a wild story about what happened when I finally hit that stage at the Garden. But I'll tell you what resonates more than anything is that when I finally played the show that night, it was like, okay, here I've arrived, local boy, done good. You know, this kid from A-Town, Ghost Spy Ponders. But it was really like, fuck, where do I want to, I'm going to enjoy this, but where do I want to, I did this. I made it. This was it.
Right.
That was it. That was like, I'm 20, what was I, 32 or 33 or something. And I'm like, all right, this is it. So at that point, it was really like, I left the Boston Garden that night. I don't know if people realize this, but with Al Dotley, my tour manager, who had tour managed everybody from Black Sabbath to Zeppelin to Elvis. He was my tour manager. He's still my good friend to this day. But Al Dotley put me in 288 arenas, I think we did over a 4-year period.
Holy shit.
Dude, you name an arena that's an A arena. We did every A and B arena. I even did some fucking like Edmonton C arena, like shitty old arenas. We played them all. There wasn't one. So when I came off the end of that tour from the Garden to the rest, and then it airs on HBO, it was really like, all right, it's 2010 now. Where do I want to focus all that energy and take the next phase of my career? But I'll tell you another quick funny story, which was like, I do the Garden, and I think it must have been like a few days later that I bumped into my Father Haddad was the priest at St. Eulalia's in Winchester.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool because I used to go to CCD, and he was one of the CCD teachers and all that. He'd seen all the Catholic stuff that I'd done, Christ checks and all that stuff. And I'll never forget, I was like, oh, Father Haddad, like, I was so glad that, you were a part of because they'd come to the show.
Right.
And I was like, but but how you feeling about the Catholic stuff?
A little edgy there.
He goes, very funny, Dane Cook, but you are going to hell.
That is awesome. I've always wondered too with that, like as your career is growing and more eyeballs are on you, and nowadays it's like, you know, if someone cool or like a legend you look up to follows you, you're like, oh shit, like look at this. Back then, when you see people in the crowd that, you know, maybe the Dave Chappelle's that might be just off stage or even like a priest, I'm always fascinated by how folks at your level stay like true to themselves and you don't tailor the ship based on, you know, let's say like a Drake starts following you hypothetically. Right. You're like, all right, maybe I tailor my content. Now Drake's staring me down. Like what?
Yeah, man. Well, there's two like stabs at it. And one stab is you're either placed there by the powers that be. Those are the people that like maybe come in and pay for your production and basically pay for your exposure. Right. And then you're, you know, beholden to being a team with your investors. I was lucky enough, you know, to be a self-made comic, which gave me the confidence to go, hey, you know what? Everything I put out isn't always going to be great, but it will be my evolution of it. So I've been fortunate, you know, my career, even through missteps, you know, or course corrections or like more holy shit moments. I'm fortunate to go like, all right, but it is my career. Right. You know, I'm 32 years into pretty much doing it my way, but I do get phone calls and I can't name names, but I do talk to some people, you know, that are not like a Chappelle again, self-made, cemented himself. Right. But I'm talking about like, I know guys that you know right now that are arriving or in their moment, you would say, or on the come up. And they're a little panicked because they know that some of them are being guided by people that they don't give a fuck what your evolution is. They just want you to sell tickets now. Yeah, that's all they care about. So that's the sketchy part of stand up. You got to stick close to your graduating class. Right. You know, if you have a few people that you trust, and I got a few comics that are my go-tos and that are, you know, go-tos not only for each other, but I'm also lucky that some of the ones that are further down the line are kind of mentors. I'm mentors to some people on the come up, but I got some people that are like, they don't fucking need or want anything from me. I don't help their career at all, but they just are there to talk about the ups and downs. Yeah, right. I love that a lot. When I look at you at a lens where like we're 28 and we're the ship is just leaving the dock in this like social media. We've done a couple live shows. Yeah. And I look at a guy like you and I'm like, wow, like he has sailed from Boston Harbor back to England, giving England the finger. Right. The booze cruises, man. I used to play those booze cruises. Yeah. The Whale Watch booze cruise. Yeah. Still alive and well, in case you're wondering. They are still doing I was on them, man. I was performing on them. You did not want to bomb on that booze cruise. If you bombed on the booze cruise, you were screwed because then you were stuck on the boat with everybody for the rest of the show. Like, how long is this ride? Are we gonna do the whole harbor or what? We're all sharing the same bathroom after this. Dude, you were like, give me a fucking kayak. Let me skedaddle out of here or whatever it's called. Hurley, our producer, DJs on those currently, so he knows a lot about those. I assume that happens in the DJ world, Hurley. If you bomb and you're like, "Oh shit, we're here for another hour and a half." That's brutal. What are some of the biggest takeaways, like as two young guns starting their career in like the entertainment space? What are some of the biggest takeaways you've learned in the industry? Yeah, well, even though we're steeped in the digital age, which is like, now everybody's got a MySpace. Everybody, you know, that's TikTok 1.0. Now you got a TikTok, you got a YouTube, you got to get your clips and excerpts. I think that it still boils down to the same basic principle, which is if you're doing something that's truthful and meaningful to you, it can be anything. It could be fucking absurd. It could be, you know, a new level of edgy. It could be something that's like, you know, oh man, that hasn't been around in 20 years. Why are you repurposing it? Well, because I love it and I want to do something as an homage to that form of entertainment, but this is my take. All of those things, as long as you come at things with a truth, then you can stand apart. If you are derivative, if you follow the pack, you might make a few shekels here and there, but you may not feel like you're leading the charge. And some people, by the way, are fine with that. Some people go, I want to do good and I like entertaining people, but I'm not trying to pull ahead. I'm not trying to like zeitgeist. But if you want to, then just be a level of deadly serious, even in your humor, about committing to having if it's two people, especially a common goal of how you want to be perceived. Look at like, if you look back at like even the shock jock era in comics, the DJs and stuff that came out of that era, they kind of followed in Howard Stern's, successful wake. But you go, the ones that made it and stuck around were the ones that stayed true to their fucked up sense of humor, right? So, right. Yes, that's what you got to do.
I love that, because I think it's my biggest fear is like we are, like we said earlier, situational funny, and that's great being the funny guy, but I never want to be taken as a joke, And I think you've done a great job at that of being the businessman behind that,
Well, Kev, not, like when you say situational funny, but it's kind of funny because when you say that, I don't look at that as milk toast. I look at that as like, well, the whole world wants some situational funny. Everybody enjoys a good hang. That's why podcasting and live podcasting is doing so well. Yeah, because it is situational with people you like. If people like you, your situational presentation could very well turn into. I mean, look at Tom Segura. In some regards, him and his wife putting on the brilliant. Your mom's house.
Yep.
It's like, that was just them yapping with each other about whatever was on their mind. And look what that became. It became a podcasting empire. So to me, it's always about what the great Patrice O'Neill said to me one time at the back of Nick's Comedy Stop. You can't fuck with the truth. And if you're the truth in whatever you do, then that's, then it's the truth. The truth is attractive, whether it's an opinion that you share. You can listen to a political truth from an opposing side.
Right.
And if it's true, if it's not bullshit, you can still enjoy listening and debating it. So just be the truth. Patrice O'Neill, man, in our hearts always. But that's the truth. Be the truth, and you'll do well.
Be the truth.
That's phenomenal.
Oh,
that might be your next.
Paul Pierce, baby.
Colin's got a copious amount of tattoos.
Oh,
you want to flash your chest one real quick for him as a Boston guy?
Check it out.
He's got might be a little hard.
Hold on, let me open up the window.
There we go.
Open up the window. Wicked.
WWE logo, wicked. Next tattoo, be the truth.
With the WWE.
It's unbelievable.
Huge wrestling fan as well.
Unbelievable.
I thought you were just a fan of the Broadway play.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to start singing "Popular" in a fucking falsetto.
That's exact. He's a single man, and he gets a lot of shit from the ladies of having wicked tattoos.
Well, yeah,
that's how you spin it.
It throws them off a little bit.
It's not Boston slang. It is actually pretty theatrical.
It's pretty classy.
It's pretty deep.
Right.
Yeah.
I will tell you, there's something about coming back to Beantown, as I just was there a few weeks ago, and you hear the voice. And you hear the accent, you hear the vibe,
and
it's just the most consoling sound. And I know some people make fun of the Boston accent.
Oh, yes.
I dated a couple of Marlboro girls.
There it is.
Yeah.
They could have fucking broken chapel glass with their voice, but it's like the truth is there's no better vibe and cadence and
100%.
tempo than that East Coast in Boston region. I love it.
I'm gonna have to clip that part. My fiance is born and raised in Eastie. She's like literally lives on basically her living room is like TSA pre-check. She's that close to the airport, and she has that 80% of my content is me just hammering her Boston. She has the thickest most the R is just not a thing. Not in there.
Yeah.
We're
the R just flies out the window.
Yeah. We're renewing vows, and she's like, "Till death do us part." And I'm like, well,
she's like Charlene.
I don't know if I want to do us part.
It's not even an R. It's It's just say when your dentist says say and it's like I'm saying R.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always like, "What does a pirate say?" She's like, not even remotely correct. When did you transition back to your career? When did you transition from? And you're heavy in the comedy space, obviously, but you became a freaking movie star, which I feel like is fairly rare in the comedy scene.
Yeah, and it's weird because I feel like it's like me and I'm trying to think of maybe like Kevin Hart. I feel like we're the end of the comedy era of film because people watch. It's kind of fucking weird. People write me every day about say 3 films in particular on the comedy side: Employee of the Month, Good Luck Chuck,
Yep.
My Best Friend's Girl. And people write me today like it's still a new film. But what
Right.
I've realized is so few comedies are either in theaters anymore or do make it to that caliber.
Right.
That in some people's eyes they go like, I and a few people are the last comics to have a career where you go, okay, stand up and then arenas and then I'm a movie star,
Right.
essentially. But which is kind of weird. It's strange because I want to see comedies flourish again and do well.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that like when Employee of the Month came along, that was really the first. I'd done like some bit parts. I'd done some
Right.
things in like a movie like Mystery Man or like cameos and other things. But when my first kind of leading man thing came along, Lionsgate, I met with Lionsgate. And I just remember sitting in that meeting and they were like, what do you want to do in the film space? And I was like, I want to do a movie that harkens back to like Meatballs growing up or like Stripes
Yeah.
or Caddyshack. And they were like, well, what do you mean by that? I was like, well, I don't want to just be, Dane Cook is.
Right.
I love ensembles. And I think if you put me around other funny people, it'll bolster the funny because
Right.
why not? If you have Andy Dick and Harlan Williams and all these other people that are like very funny around you, then you have better chances of getting laughs, right?
Bounce off each other.
And so the first film, because it did so well box office wise, it provided me an opportunity to do like 7 or 8 comedy films and then a bunch of other stuff. And I'll tell you, the simple answer is all that stuff came just from people being either fans, like producers or directors being fans of my stand-up, or they saw that I could put asses in seats and they were like,
Right.
if we fit Dane into that role, then it might help the movie have a great opening weekend. So I got lucky, man. It was really, again, zeitgeisting. And if you do your job well and you take it to the limits, it only overflows into other people's optics and
Right.
then you get phone calls.
That's
Right.
a great way to look at that.
That movie's still flowing around. It was just on the Peacock.
Yeah.
Just jumped in my face the other day. I watched it. It was fun.
What,
Yeah,
Employee of the
I
Month?
mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still in
wild
cycle.
because we're not really at liberty to, because I am a SAG member and we're on strike and the Writers Guild's on strike.
Right.
But before the strike, there was actually talk of a sequel, talking about like, do we want to do a
Oh,
follow up
wow.
or so? That's how popular it remains today. That movie still goes around. I hope that the strike gets resolved because
Yeah.
I'm not entertaining any of those conversations in solidarity. But
Right.
I hope it works out so I can sit back down and talk about potentially bringing some of those characters back to life, maybe.
Right.
Right.
Would you ever pivot and do a drama? Scooch over Ben Affleck and Mark Wahlberg and do some sort of drama?
I love it, man. I've gotten a chance to do some pretty cool dramatic work, and I've got a couple of things that are, again, on hold.
Yeah.
That are sort of like a Mr. Brooks or a Dan in real life. I did a movie a few years ago called American Exit with Levi Miller. So I do have those opportunities, but I think people look at you a certain way and they go, the first thought of me is comedy or
Right.
or humor or something. And then randomly every once in a while, you'll kind of get surprised by somebody who calls you up and says, I'm thinking about putting a thing together and would you be interested in that? I'm always open to, I love a career that can be as wild
Right.
and fascinating. I think that where I want to continue to be now is I love producing. I've directed a couple of things. I want to put that energy into not only continuing stand-up, but like really focusing the main part of it into storytelling and putting the spotlight that I now can share on other people that are on the come up and
Right.
kind of help them to tell their stories.
Right. I love that. Colin, we were talking about this before the mics turned on here. Colin has a very interesting take on the sex scenes in movies.
I've never talked to a movie star before, and I need to know this, and especially with you with Good Luck Chuck, which I watched the other day on top of Employee of the Month.
Yeah, there we go.
And
back-to-back dance.
When they do romantic scenes or anything like that, what is the trick behind, like, you're not having sex with this woman on camera?
Loosely, where do you put your penis? Is what he's really getting at when you boil it down.
What happens in there?
I will say this because again, out of respect for the unions, I won't talk specifically about those movies,
Right.
But I will tell you that there's nothing more uncomfortable.
It's gotta be
odd and strange.
Right.
It's the weirdest dilemma to shoot any intimacy because there's so many people you don't see that are behind the scenes. There's like 20 people sometimes filming that scene with you, and you're obviously you're meeting sometimes the person that you're going to be doing that scene with. Sometimes you're meeting them that day, literally.
Right.
So my job as a producer or your job as an actor is to make sure that everybody walking into that situation can be as comfortable as they can be, because it's so uncomfortable.
Right.
It's so weird. It really is. It's the strangest thing but it is a dance, and you look at it like choreography, and you're trying to make something funny out of something silly, sexual. But I just remember shooting those scenes and at the end of every day being like, I just hope it's funny. But really more than anything, you got to have that decorum, because when you go into that situation, you know that both of you are like, all right, everybody's staring at us and we have to make this look interesting.
Right.
Is it true that everyone's significant other, if they have one, is also behind the cameras? I heard a thing a while ago that was like
no, some people don't like that. Some people don't want their significant other there. Some people don't care. It's the director's job usually to go and say, like, most directors don't want anybody extra there, because the director will be concerned that there'll be strange feelings. So set's usually pretty clear and as minimal as possible for those kinds of shoots.
Right.
Dane, the producer, that is, what do you like more, in front of the camera or behind it?
I mean, I love stand-up first because it's live, it's visceral. There's nothing like it.
Right.
I just had a set at the Comedy Store 2 nights ago, and I performed there since '98, and I was like, that might have been one of the best shows that I've ever done at the store, and it just continues to. Comedy can continue to impress even you. You're up there doing it, and you're discovering. Actually, you know what I was talking about? I was on stage at the Comedy Store, and I do a 10-minute bit about the combat zone back in Boston back in the day.
Oh, wow. Yep.
And I'm walking people through some of the fucked up people that I encountered hanging out in the combat zone.
Oh, yeah.
So
they've cleaned it up a tad. It's changed. There's marshals there now. It's come a long way.
No.
You know,
I was like, I think one of the laughs I get is, I tell the whole story of the combat zone, and I go, by the way, it's called the Theater District now.
Yeah.
So
It's really expensive.
There's an Equinox over there. It's fine.
But as much as I love, I love acting. I'm writing and doing things that are more in that kind of, again, collaborative space. But I would say it's equally as interesting to me to be on the producing, potentially directing side, because I'm just a storyteller.
Right.
Whether we're talking here or my stand-up is obviously storytelling style, improvisational style. So anything I can do to continue to grow up my career behind the camera, as I'm the old bull on the hill now, is like just telling stories in new and interesting ways.
Yeah. Well, you look. It's hard to make eye contact with you today because you look. You're ageless. Right? You look great. You look phenomenal.
Thanks, man. No, I had to put one of those eye things under my eyes before we started, just to make sure that.
So Mrs. Doubtfire.
Right.
Pull it all back. I don't know if you can talk much about this, and if you can't, we can cut anything out. You were just in town filming a documentary. What's the deal with that, and when is that rolling out? And that might be way early stages of when that's actually coming out.
It's about a year away. It probably won't be edited and done. The director and producing team is going to take all the footage. Oh, they film for the rest of the year. They're going to take all the footage, and then they'll put everything together. And we would probably like to, at the end of summer next year, be ready for film festivals.
Yep.
I can't talk too much about it because I'm under contract, but it's basically like talking about the center point of my career. I'm 32 years in, so I kind of hit around 15 years in.
Right.
The center of my career and what happened when I hit rare air, a welfare kid out of fucking Boston, hits this upper echelon. And then like not only what happened to me in my philosophy of like how I did it, but I had to put my brother in prison because he was working for me and he was not a good guy. So it's a story that once we're done with it, what we jokingly say as we're producing and putting it together is, when this is done and it's on a streamer somewhere, is it under true crime or comedy?
That is
genre?
so good. I heard murmurs in another interview you did on Impulsive. Is your brother going to be in that? I know at the time of Impulsive, which was a while ago, it was like up in the air.
Everybody keeps asking me that, and I can't give a definitive answer at this point. But I can say that from the footage that I have of a lifetime of being with him, I mean, he is in there, of course.
Right.
But to what extent, I'm not allowed to talk about at this point.
100%. How did your mentals, because you were like it seemed like early days, like punching bag in the comedy space for whatever reason. Everyone was like jealous of Dan. I love Dan. I was wearing denim jacket. I was wearing the leather jackets, the denim pants, the whole thing.
Dane Cook pay-per-view, 20 minutes.
Step
Let's
Brothers,
go.
like, and then to go through something so traumatic like that with your brother.
Yeah.
How mentally, where do you get your mental toughness from? Like, is that a callus you've built just going through the freaking firewall of what is Hollywood, or where did that come from?
Probably that too, but a lot of it is, having an athletic dad, broad shoulders, just born into competition. Born, everything was a competition. We would fucking, throw paper, pieces of paper into a basket, and it would turn into like, okay, it would start off as best of 3, and then literally be like, whoever gets to 75 points first doesn't have to do the trash for like a month. Competitive spirit, a mother who just had endless amounts of compassion. She would say, hey, people suck. People are the worst.
Yeah.
But it's worth going through 20 shitty people to get to somebody who's great. So you don't give up on people, even though she'd be like, a lot of people suck.
Right.
But the knee-jerk reaction when you say, like, when I went through like the spanking machine of what it means to be the biggest thing out there, was every night I was looking at a sold-out arena, or a sold-out theater, or a sold-out college. And so everybody was focusing on the hate, and all I knew was I was driving to a gig with 20,000 people waiting.
I feel like that's...
I'm like they're interested. So I also knew honestly, like, that a career was not it. Nobody sustains. It's not made for. It's made to crumble.
Right.
It's made to fucking constantly. They're saying nobody stays on top. It's like it's made to constantly put you through the shit, so you can observe and report on it to create content.
Right.
I'm not saying I like failing, but I'm saying that even when I've been like at my lowest points, I would be lying if I didn't say, okay, I've been depressed in my life. I've gone through some real hardships. I've gone through some trauma.
Right.
But even within it, dude, like I would still at lonely, sad times be like, but this is interesting. I'd still be like, but this is kind of fucking cool.
Right.
Because I remember at one point I was like, I'm like a villain to some people. I'm like a hero to my fans who love comedy, and they're on this journey, whether I'm up or down or have a hit or don't have a hit, or my special's the best or it's kind of And then you're like, all right, so they're kind of there. And then you go like, but over here, there are people that like straight up are almost vindictive, almost like would like to take something away from me.
Right.
And you go, on one hand, that's kind of interesting because I'm way more conservative and just chill, like conservative living, like relaxed. Right. I go, that's more interesting. But the only place it starts to seep in, and probably if you're looking for an answer of like, really, where does it penetrate? Where does it hurt? Is you go, it hurts when your fans get hurt by it. When your fans are like, I don't know what to think because I'm hearing a lot of shit.
Right.
And you start going like, I feel bad for you. You just want to laugh at me and have some good times. And now you're suddenly being told you're not welcome here because we don't like this person and you do. And so that's the part that would get a little janky, and kind of shitty. But to be sitting here talking about the doc and going, let's take the worst moment of my life. That's the worst moment of my entire life, coupled with losing my parents. I lose my parents. They both succumb to cancer. And then I'm dealing with this bullshit with my brother. And I'm back in Boston a few weeks ago, and I'm having the time of my life telling the worst story of my life.
That's interesting. I feel like, do a lot of comics, including yourself, pull from that on the creative side? You're almost like, this sucks, but boy, we're going to put asses in seats when they hear all this shit.
No, because I've seen some, I can't speak for, the great thing is if you guys continue to have, your favorite comics and people on, it's like, you're going to get a lot of interesting answers. But the truth is some comics, man, go into like, they not everybody knows how to what is that, self-preservate.
Yeah.
Like some of them do damage to themselves, man.
Yeah.
I've seen comics do damage. I've seen some people deal with some real mental anguish.
Right.
It breaks my heart because I'm thinking of people that I know right now that even we've lost. And like, no, man, let me tell you, dude, for anybody that really just heard what I said, they, oh man, Dane's got a great competitive, I'll come back from this spirit. But the truth is, don't be cruel to people.
Yeah.
Because you break some people's, it's not worth it. Think what you want about a comic or a person in a band, but the real reality is not everybody is mentally as prepared or tough as, say, like I was through that time because I had the right parents and the right philosophy. Those comments hurt people, man. I know people that have gotten, rotten things said about them in a comment section or on their DMs, and dude, they call me and they're like, I get nervous for their life. Yeah. I get scared for them. People go into spins and spirals.
Yeah,
so I would say to people like, hey, if you don't have to reach out and slam somebody because they did something, something you think is fucking shitty or off the mark, like let it go because you don't realize that words are powerful. Words can hurt.
Yeah. We're cut from the same cloth. My mom would always say that the best jokes are the self-deprecating jokes, Make for yourself,
totally.
Be the
100%.
It's the 100%. Best position to be in, being like the big idiot, that everyone can just.
Oh yeah, man, for sure. If you can take ownership over the things that cause you the most heartache and the things that you excel in, then you're unfuckable with. Like nobody can,
like that.
Nobody can take anything away from you.
If that's not on Dan Cook's new merch line, that's gotta be. I mean, oh my god, that on
unfuckwithable.
Unfuckwithable. Wow. Someone trademarked that.
I don't think I coined that, but I think I picked that up on
I am gonna say that's Dane's line if I hear it out.
That has to be on what is that, like that Urban Dictionary or something? I bet that's already on there.
And appears here's unfuck. Yeah, exactly. What, you're so far down the road in your career, you've achieved so much. What I look at like Conor McGregor, and it's he's like fighting Vegas, but it's tough to come back once you you've had the boats and the houses and the riches and the relationships. What motivates you to keep going now, to stay on tour, do the documentary, stay so busy on your day-to-day?
I think it's because I still don't feel like I've met my true potential, and I still am looking for ways to, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to accentuate it perfectly, but I was friends with Jerry Lewis up until he passed away, and even at 88, 89, not only was he performing and touring, but he was always curious, and he was always hungry to create something new. And I just think that lives in me. So I feel like some days I feel like the same. I feel like some days I'm still just starting. I still feel like I'm learning a lot. There's things that I've gotten so much better at in my technique and in the tools in the arsenal.
Right.
But it's also looking at like, I've only ever wanted to be in the holy shit business.
Yeah.
And I have. I've created so many moments in my life where I calibrated the way comics do business, or the way we tour, or the way you can self-distribute. I'm doing self-distribution now, and to be able to own and control my IP and all that kind of stuff, man. It's like on the business side, to be able to get to that place is so rewarding. But what I want to do next is certainly like, there are things that I've never accomplished, especially in the world of like on-screen performance, that I'm starting to get opportunities to do things that are really unique in that space. So yeah, man, just continuing to want to build out my abilities and brand, and also share it. I love shooting the shit, man. I can talk shop every day. I love this stuff. So more of this.
Yeah, hell, I love what you said on Impulsive, what you said in the courtroom to your brother, which was, you took my money, but what you really wanted to take was in here, and you can never take what's in here. Like their experience you have and what's in your mentals is like the sharpest sword you have. And kudos to you for for brick by brick, year after year, show after show, building that up. Like, that's phenomenal. That is just
man. And it's kind of like, you go, okay, if you can have, I talked to somebody recently, I said, if you can have one holy shit moment, you can have as many as you can dream up. And so for me, it's always looking and saying, all right, I have the same energy, enthusiasm, and ability that I did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Right.
I'm even better. I'm even more focused. I'm a little wiser. I'm a little grayer, but I'm still a little fucking,
You look phenomenal.
And so I go, okay, given all those things, what can I do that's in the holy shit business at this point in my life, at this vantage point in my life?
Right.
So that's it, man. You're catching
it.
me like before the next expedition, the Perfectly Shattered tour at the end of this year, once it ends. And what I'm planning for next year is something that I think has never been seen before.
Oh, here we go.
In the world of stand-up comedy. So I'm already meeting with people and talking about something that maybe we'll talk about next time, which is like, wow, holy shit, you just did something and presented comedy in a way that we've never seen it before.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
That might be the name of the new
On the
next
road
tour.
to holy shit.
Holy shit. We ever do a
Holy
show?
shit moments.
We ever do another show in Boston? Will they ever do another? Will the tour ever? The ship ever swing back around?
Dude, I'm back at the Wilbur for the weekend after Thanksgiving. So it's that Friday,
hell yeah.
Saturday. We added a show actually recently to a Saturday show. So if anybody wants to come down and see the new stuff, then I'll see you guys at the end of November.
We're there.
We'll be there.
We're there.
We're there.
Done deal. Wow.
Yeah, man.
We will promote the shit out of that.
Yep.
We got to get the dates. We got to get the dates
At the
on that
Wilbur.
for sure. At the Wilbur. Yeah.
Yeah. End of November. First weekend after November. So that's usually an impulse weekend because people go, oh, I'm going to be with my family. And then about 2 weeks leading up, they're like, I got to get the fuck out of here. So
Exactly.
get your tickets now.
That is awesome. Well, I want to respect your time, and I can't thank you enough for coming on. Real quick, I just want to make sure we get everything plugged for you that we can. Anything you want to, you got the show at the Wilbur, you got the documentary coming out in a year. Anything else? New merch line potentially. Hello, Unfuckwithable. I mean, anything you want to plug that we can help spread the word on for you?
Well, really, the rest of the year is just a stand-up year. So anything
Hell
Perfectly Shattered, the tour is out there. DaneCook.com has all the tour dates.
Hell yeah.
I'm killing it on TikTok, so I tell people to go over there because I do lives.
Yep.
I do my lives from TikTok. So if anybody wants to catch me on there, I always do giveaways, upgrades.
Oh, here we go.
So that's it, man. On the road and on TikTok Live.
I've been loving the TikToks. Okay, next live you do, I got to jump in there because they are phenomenal.
Yeah, man. We'll battle.
Yeah, I'm in. Yeah, definitely.